Welcome, fellow beekeepers. This is Jamie Walters, your live webinar training host. I'm pleased to share this educational webinar in hopes to make you a better beekeeper. Live sessions are now recorded on the fourth Sunday of each month at 7 o'clock p.m. through Zoom conference call. You're welcome to reserve a ticket at www.eventbrite.com. Search for Ohio State Beekeepers Association's events and click Tickets. Register by filling in your name and email address, and a confirmation email will be sent to you with a Zoom link. Each training session is recorded and posted on OSBA's YouTube channel. You're welcome to subscribe and be sure to click the bell to be alerted each time we upload a new video. Each month's speaker and presentation will be posted on OSBA's Facebook page and on our website at ohiostatebeekeepers.org. You're welcome to subscribe to the live webinar training news group to be alerted at the beginning of each month. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at live-webinar-training@ohiostatebeekeepers.org. And now on to our previous recorded webinar. So for those of you that are on the call tonight, I'm going to challenge you. I want you to try one of these methods and raise some queens to be sustainable in your own operation. We all know how hard it is to find queens. All of a sudden it goes queenless, something happens. You need queens and you need to try and have them now. So getting into queen rearing. This is something everybody can do in their backyard. You have the supplies now. We're going to go through a detailed supply list and an absolute 1, 2, 3 of making your own stuff. You're not going to have to do Dolittle Method. You don't have to graft. You don't have to have the perfect eyesight. And I'm getting that way too, so I'm not teasing on that part. I got bifocals and I'm getting trifocals now so I can graft myself. So let's get underway. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jamie Walters, and I started this whole thing late in life. I would love to be the prodigy of Angela and her daughter and some of these young kids that get into beekeeping, or for those of you senior beekeepers that had a father or grandfather that was into beekeeping. I started this at around 30. I started as a Defiance County Master Gardener, got into OCVN and all the way around that stuff. Around the top, got my private applicator's license, got into forestry. And then I went to Purdue and was able to work under Crispin Given and got an instrumental insemination. And we all hear about the ankle biters and VHS. Went with Denise Ellsworth for pollinator specialist. With Barb Bletcher, became an apiary inspector. And that opened up my eyes because Dwight Wilson's my mentor. And you live in a little bubble when you're just doing your own bees or just working within your community. And being a county inspector opens up your eyes to a lot of other things. And it for the good part, it really educates, gives you the education behind it. And with OSBA, I have a lot of many different hats. I used to be a vintner at Stony Ridge Winery, and now I own 2 H&R Blocks and Nationwide. And then my passion is bees. So let's all agree with one thing in beekeeping. There has to be a standard SOP. And the very beginning of that is healthy bees. 0 or low mite counts, multiple drones producing hives, pollinator, you have to have pollen, nectar, and you have to have resources. When you try to get into beekeeping, you cannot have high varroa loads and sick bees. You're not going to get, let's count them off. You're not going to have honey. So if you have 3 colonies and that person that has 3 colonies is doing everything perfectly and that other person has 15 colonies that kind of lets them be bees, that person has 3 colonies is going to outproduce you in health, honey, products, and hive products. So we all have to agree with that. Feeding them pollen sub, and so you have to be a diligent beekeeper being in those hives. Accurate records. The best beekeepers I know keep records. Know what those bees are doing, what that colony done. If it's the second year queen, what's going on? Is it a perfect area that has tons and tons of resources around it? Or is it getting to a place where you're having to move your bees around because you're surrounded by crops? And then up here in my area, I'm in Northwest Ohio, so I'm a half hour from Indiana, a half hour from Michigan. I'm surrounded by crops, so we have to follow the rivers where we put our hives. So the best thing, keep a journal. That means sit in front of your hives. You can do it with paper and pencil if you're the old school like I am, a notepad, a computer, recording devices. And I say recording devices, who's got a cell phone? So everybody can raise their hand and say a yes on that one. But just make records so you know what your mite count is, what your hot colony's doing. If you have problems, those educated people that are taking those notes, when you go to talk to an inspector, a club president, remember all of our regions are different. What I get in Northwest Ohio isn't happening in Cincinnati. Take those notes so when you go to the board or talk to someone, you're giving them good, current information. The Varroa loads, this is me as an inspector. I went out, that's 100 and some odd mites in one colony. Every one of his colonies, this is a commercial beekeeper F, as I call him. He lost 800 hives in the first year I was an inspector, and I had Barb Bletcher come down. These are the other side of that, having the Varroa in check. I hate to buy things and say, oh, they recommend this. But if you're going to be in bees and you're going to do this accurately, the Varroa check, I'm not saying who to buy it through, but it's an easy way. You can still use your mason jar. You can still use your number 8 screen. But if you're doing this and you're going to be consistent about it every month, either the first part, middle, or end, when you do your Varroa check, stay consistent. Starting this month would be perfect. The bees are building up, natural pollen's coming in, we're doing splits. Know it and get a baseline for what your Varroa load is, knowing coming into the next month, into May, June, July, and you're going to see that buildup. And remember, for the USDA and ODA, our mite count, our maximum is 9 mites per 300 bees, or 1/2 cup. So I'll step off that soapbox because we all have to have good, healthy bees. So when you're raising queens, guess what? Your schedule is not your schedule anymore. You live by her schedule. So I'll show you a bunch of different stuff on this. So when the queen emerges on the 16th day, she does not care if you're out dinner with your wife or with your husband. She does not care if you're out on vacation. She does not care what's going on. She's going to emerge. And if she emerges and you have 4 or 5 in there and you forgot to turn on and delegate or move them apart, they're going to kill each other right off the bat. Your resources are completely up to you. Do you have a wood shop? Do you have good forage, a lovable spouse, so you can buy more gear? And that's why I put that in there. The money, it all comes down to money also. Beekeeping is not cheap. You're going to be the weatherman or weather lady. You're going to turn on and see what that forecast is, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The contractor, are you a person who can build your own gear, or you're going to have to buy it? And you're always the student. And I thank you for the, who was it up here? Somebody said something about me being smart. I do appreciate that, but I want to be smarter, and there's always room for improvement. And mentors, look at those people that are raising good quality queens that you can go out and ask questions, and they're willing to give you those answers. So you're open breeding, and most of us are going to be doing this. I'm just doing the basics. I'm not going to cover anything with any complication to it. This is 3 easy method that everyone can raise some queens. Most of us are going to open breed. So these are all my colonies. My granddaughter picks out the color from the mist tints, and this is what we have. I break big colonies down, and in the lower left-hand corner, I just make up nukes. When I do this, I try to take the nukes or the new colonies away from the big colonies, for the fact that those big colonies, if we ever get into a dearth or something happens, they're going to rob out the little ones. So remember, all you're going to have in this is a nuke, and we'll cover all kinds of different nukes and mating nukes here in a minute. But all I do is take that, make up a nuke, and I take the entrance and flip it the opposite way of the colony, of the full colony that I done it. It is recommended that we take them 2 miles away, take them to another apiary, do different out yards. I just flip them the opposite direction. But I do check them quite a few times in between that to make sure all those forage bees that were in there didn't go back to the parent colony. And now this split that I just made with this new queen isn't just a handful of bees. So this is how I've done it. I started with Dwight Wilson giving me 10 full colonies, probably 16 years ago now, and said basically they're your colonies. Do what you want. You raise them up, you're good. You kill them, you kill them. And that he gave me the opportunity as a mentor to turn around and do this. Know what's in your area as far as genetics and what your DCAs are. You can go onto Google Earth. You don't have to get this complicated with it. But I actually took everybody as a Defiance County inspector, and I clicked them out, a 2-mile circle around every person that had an apiary that was registered or non-consent, and actually plotted them out. So when I rear queens, I'm over here in this green circle. These other green circles are my apiaries, and then I have different people that are in my area, so I know what kind of genetics that I'm getting. As far as the crow flies, 2-mile lap over both sides. If somebody has some hot genetics, or let's say they're a natural beekeeper that doesn't do anything with their bees, what are you also picking up with Varroa, deformed wing virus, sac brood, American foul brood, European foul brood? So you can set up an outyard. If you know someone, you can take some nukes, take them to somebody else, or find a mid person in between, and then set up your apiary. So this is as easy as it gets. Open breeding. I go out and I find who's in my area, and you can do it through Google Earth. Just drop right in with their addresses. Let's just say, here's my address, and I find Jeff over here, and Wilson, and Kyle, and Chris, and Doug. And then all I do is I just go out. If you don't, you can actually take, if you have multiple colonies, go out, use your queen rearing or your mating nukes in the center, and then just put colonies around the outside, at least 1.5 miles away. And why that is, this young virgin queen in the center is going to fly out at least 1 mile, and she's going to look for drones. Her drones only go out 0.5 mile, so they're on this inner circle. She's looking for mating to go out here, all these DCAs that are possibly on the outer ring, and she does not want to mate with her own drones. So she's going to go out here and look. You can set this up yourself. Take a colony out here, find somebody about 1.5 miles away, talk to the neighbor and say, hey, can I set this up in a farm field? It's not going to be possible for everybody, but this is an option. And back for the other option, you can go back and find yourself a position in between people that you know that have good, healthy colonies. So here I am. I have an apiary here where I have mating, or most of my mating nukes. I have a colony down at the other side. I have 2 different properties, and I went Google Earth, and then I just set up outside colonies. There's about 4 on each stand that sit around the outside, and that's where I get my drone stock. So no different. I diversify that with, I got 2 Russian queens that were crossed with Cordovans from Roger this week, and they're in apiary D. So I've had Nina Bagley. I've had her queens out here. I've had other ones that I want good, solid queens. And we're going to talk about what my selection is and how I do this. So you can do this yourself. If you can't, then revert back to one of the other ones. So all the different mating nukes. We have the little tiny 2-frame styrofoam 3-frame. We have the 2-frame deep. We have a 5-frame. We have a 5-frame traveling cover on the top, 4x4, 2x2x2x2, and a 4x4 Michael Palmer method. Those are all nice. It all depends what you want or what your resources are, but I'll show you my recommendation. Apologize, one. Some other methods, you can actually take a deep colony, 8 or 10 frame, and Man Lake and Dayton, I checked on the prices tonight, and you can buy a Fowler board. This sits just like a frame, and it divides the colony in half. So you can do 2 frames and 2 to 8. You can slide that over and do 4 to 4. You can slide it over and do 6 to 3. 6 and 3. So you can make your own just by using a small little board and dividing that colony. So the picture directly below it, I'm just going to slide this back and forth. As the colony grows, I can slide it over. Once it gets completely full, I can just add another box on top. They have the little mini frames on top of that, and it's just different methods of having it. My preferred method, and this is me alone, and I'll tell you the reasons why. I have 4x4. The girl on the front, she comes out the front. The one on the other side goes out the back. 4 frames, as she lays them up, if I don't have room to move them, I can actually take one of these frames and pull it out. She completely fills it up with honey, pull that frame out, give her more foundation. If she can place it all up with 3 frames of cat brood and she's just bulking at the seams, I can pull those out and put more drawn comb in. Remember, these 4 girls, there are these 2 queens on both sides, they want to be a full colony. You could actually take a box and put on top of this and actually put up a small little thing and put drawn comb at the top. or always steal her resources away from her, or when she gets to a 4/4 going vertical. And then if she's proven and you can say, hey, she's a good quality queen, you know she's laying a good brood pattern. I'm not scared of her. And what I mean by that, we have all had colonies where you open up that telescoping lid and you all go, oh, or you get to your apiary and you check all the nice queens and all the nice colonies, but you're afraid of that one colony. Do not replicate a hot hive, because you're just taking those genetics and you're just replicating it for yourself. And then anybody else who's looking for queens, they're replicating it back towards you. The queen castles, I also have these. The front, I take the front reducer, make it solid with 2 slots. So it's a 3/3 or 3x3x3. The reason I like this is I can still steal a little resources from it. So let's say the outside frame. I can take this one from all honey or open nectar and put in a frame of foundation. Let her build up. Use her as a capped brood foundation. That if she has, let's say all 3 of these queens have all capped brood, steal all the capped brood away, shake all the bees back in, and put that in a full-size colony or another colony that you want to boost up for honey production, for cut comb production. So you can do different stuff like that. And these are the 2 different styles that I have. So our stock. I want girls, number 1, that overwintered. And I don't want overwintered with a little tiny bees. I want a colony that she overwintered, a good, healthy queen. I want to pick a colony or a queen that has great honey production. That's what 99% of us are in this for. So I want a good honey. I want good hygienics. I don't want to have chalk brood problems. I don't have EFB problems. I don't want to have all that other stuff. I want good, nice queens that turn around, went through, their colonies are good, and you can either purchase them, you can do more brood rearing. So everybody kind of jokes to me about, where's your honey at, Jamie? I don't have tons of honey because as soon as my boxes, they get to this 3rd deep on top, they get cut in half and I start another colony. The only time I start stacking things up is in the fall, September, October. I stack everything up and they get through the winter time. And that Varroa hygienics, I have queens. I'm not saying, and I will never say that there's a queen out there that if I have a queen that I don't have mites. Everybody has Varroa. But these girls actually, if I do my alcohol wash every month, they stay in the 3 and 4 all month long until that September, October. So pick your best of your best. I don't want you to reproduce all your queens from all your yards. Find the best of the best. And then after this season, then pick the best of the best next year. So you're doing the best you can to have the best stock. The calendar, and this is what we talked about in the beginning. Your calendar is what the queen's calendar is going to be. So on day 1, and I want everybody, I'll still give you a thing on this. Number 1, the queen lays that egg. I mean, that egg is directly erect. It's straight up. Number 2, the second day, that egg starts to fall. Day 3, that young larvae drops down and it eats the egg shell for protein. Number 4 is usually when the day we start to graft. But you're not going to graft. So I'm just showing you this chart because 99% of the grafting calendars and things like that are going to have that grafting day on it. So number 6 is inspection grafts. You're going to inspect your grafts. You're going to make sure that after you moved it into this, either OTS or the methods I'm going to show you, I want that queen cell starting to be pulled out. I don't want little tiny cells and say that's a quality queen. I want queens as big around as my thumb as if possible. I want a long, thick thorax, and I want a long abdomen. And I want tons and tons of royal jelly inside. So on day 6, I want to inspect that graft again. And on day 9, I want to see that nice capping on the top. If you understand the way that the cells are getting pulled out when it's capped on day 9, 10, 11, and 12 are critical. Don't take that frame and pull it up and flip it over, inspect it, shake it around, because that's when it's going from the pupae into the larvae, or the larvae into the pupae, and her head's going to drop and she's going to get in that position to get ready to pupate out and then start chewing out the cell tip. If you've ever raised queens, you've guaranteed you've ran across queens that maybe through nature of itself, that queen dropped butt first, and then all of a sudden you see the cell and it's day 18 and day 19 and day 20. You think, oh, well, when's she going to emerge? She's already dead. You peel that open with a razor blade or a Japanese grafting tool or a German tool, and you found that she dropped butt first, and she's usually one of them really nice queens. Day 13 to 14, you're going to move those cells into your other nukes. You're going to sell them. You can sell them as a virgin queen or a cell, and you're going to use them for replacements. Remember, we're trying to be sustainable within our apiary. So if you have a queen that's lived that second year and all of a sudden she's doing that shotgun pattern, don't be afraid of off with her head. I don't name my queens. I know people that do. Then that little Beth Ann that really got you through the season, off with her head, put in that new queen and keep that colony going. Day 16, you're going to check for queen emerging. So on that day 16 late, there's some that depending on when it got pulled out, you're going to turn around and help that out. You're looking for that little nice trap door on the tip of that queen cell that's been chewed out and dropped out. And you know she's running around. If you see the chewed out cell on the tip, don't go tearing that colony apart. That little virgin queen is running around trying to spread her QMP, trying to tell everybody, hey, like me, and she's running around. If you go tearing around inside of it, and I've seen it hand over hand, if you go tearing in that colony and she's running, the other bees think she's an invader. They'll ball her and they'll take her in, they'll drop her down inside the colony and they'll kill her instantly. I've had a couple guys do that they come over, quote, help me with my bees, pulled up frames and, hey, there's this girl, and all of a sudden, boom, and then she's dead. So take the time and put on that 2 weeks. Day 18, you're going to remove any failed cells. So if you see that black on that tip of that queen cell, that means that larvae dropped too early and it's dead. If it doesn't get pulled out all the way, if it's really, really long, it's about a 2.5 inch long, that means that larvae dropped and they're trying to refill it again. So you'll see these peanuts that look almost like as long as a half pencil. Day 22, you're looking for mating flights, and that's weather dependent. So remember that weather man, weather lady. If you remember, if she can't go out in that 60, 70 degrees in the evening and go out and mate with 10, 15, 20 drones, if it's wet and rainy for 4 days, you've just pushed those mating flights all the way back. So day 34, you're going to check for eggs. Day 37, you're going to check for larvae. If the queen did not go out and make a good mating flight, all the larvae that she laid is going to be drones. So wait till they get to that larval state. If you see all those bubbled up drones and it's hundreds and hundreds of drones, she didn't get a good flight. Off with her head. If she didn't lay a good pattern, and don't just evaluate a queen on one frame. That's why I like the deeps. If we go back here, and I'll go back here a minute, this is why I like these deeps. I want that queen, to evaluate that queen, I want at least 2, if not 3 frames of eggs, larvae, pupae, cat brood, and to say she's a quality queen. That's why I do not like I do not like these little mating nukes, because is that a quality queen if she lays this little tiny circle of eggs? For me, no. I want, when I sell a queen, or I want to say she's a good queen, I want at least 2 solid frames of brood to know that she got that good mating flight. She has that 8 microliters of semen. That means she's going to lay for a good 2 years, depending on her velocity. So if we go over it, and then day 40, I want to evaluate this nuke from top to bottom. Does she have good, are they runny bees on this on the frames? Do you open up the top and they instantly jump in your face? Are they scattered around? Are they not pulling in honey and doing different things? Again, evaluate. If you're scared of those bees, you don't like the way she's doing things, off with her head. The Ohio State Beekeepers has a grafting. So I'm going to drop this into the chat. And let's do this here, and everyone. So I have a queen rearing calendar that's going to come in. And I'll drop in the PDF. So you can click on that PDF and everybody can have that. And it's going to have tomorrow's date. So tomorrow, it's going to be really nice. We all have drones out running around. I want you to go out there and start looking around. So if I do this here, I'm going to show you real quick the calendar. So on that queen rearing calendar, what it does, you put the date in the top, tomorrow's date. and it has the timeline. It automatically populates the timeline for us and tells you little tiny quinky dink things like the day 11, 12, and 13. It says sensitive, development, phase. Do not move these cells or be very gentle, like fragile eggs. That's what we want to be at. So if you're looking at this kind of stuff, this is that automatic chart that I just sent you. You're welcome to download that. And I'll also put it on the OSBA website along with the president's permission, so we make sure we do that. And Tehran, and you guys can have that calendar and use it. So if you have Excel, and I'll send you that sheet also, you can put in Excel, it'll automatically generate. The one on here is a PDF, so you can use that. If you're a techie person and you like the apps, it's called Queen Rearing Mobile. It's an app on your phone. I have it on mine. If you want to buy the pro version, it costs you a whole whopping $1. That's it. A whole $1. So you can turn on and go on there, download the app. You can actually put in the dates that you're grafting. So if you put in the mating flights, you can set the alarms for 8 o'clock in the morning if you're an early bird, or 6 o'clock in the morning. And it'll automatically turn on your alarms, and it'll tell you beep, beep, beep in the morning. And it'll say the queen should be emerging today. It gives you a time to go out. It'll go, you can set it up for beep, beep, beep. The queen should be on mating flights today, if you notice the picture in the center. And then at the end, I can turn on and say, this is the pole line queens, or these are the German queens, or these are the Russian queens. And I can actually put different things with it. So it reminds me what cells. I can put in a description of it, and I can also put in a location. I can say what apiary or what hive it was. So there's a nice, easy app. So you cannot tell me there's not a way to turn on and be remembered and not know what's going on. The extra gear you're going to need, and I'm just going to tell you the reason why for each one. I'm not asking you to have the German tool or the Chinese tool or all the other stuff. I want you to have a battery box. You can get these in Band Lake, the JBZ battery boxes. Why? Because you're going to haul some queens around, those excess queens that you have, and you're going to tuck them away, not in direct sunlight. So after they emerge, I want you to have some JBZs and some toothpicks. I want you to have some California cages, so you can have one or the other. I want you to have a few frames of all raw foundation, wax, real wax, not plastic, because you're going to learn to cut some of these cells out as they produce. A nice utility. You can do the snap-off blades, a nice utility blade, and you can pick them up 2 or 3 for $1. And the extended wide base JBZ cups in the bottom. If you want to get extra bells and whistles, that's completely up to you, but everybody can raise queens just from this little bit of gear that we have. And the other nice thing about the battery box, what if you have 5 queens in one night and the next day is a meeting? Put them in the JBZ cages, put some nurse pieces in here, go to your club, give them away if you want, or $20 a piece. It's completely up to you. So you can make some money back at this also. So the resources, this is what we all need. And you can do this with one colony or more. I want a colony that's busting at the seams. Either a full-size colony, or 10 over 10, or I can actually make this into a nuke. And you can raise a few queens. So you're not going to be able to raise, in a small nuke that's completely busting, you might be able to raise 3 or 4. In a full-size colony like this, you might be able to raise 15 or 20. But I don't want you to chase the numbers. I want you to go for quality, 2 and 3, 4 at a time, and then use those resources or work with a buddy that you can run and pay or participate and pass those genetics out if you have good quality stock. So building the starter, and I'm only saying this is a starter, is if you do not have the skills to find the queen. So let's just go back one. If I'm looking at this colony on the left and I go, hey, find me the queen. How many of you honestly think you can find the queen in that gigantic hive? Not many of you. But if we build a starter and we do this in reverse, we're going to do this the easy way. So we're going to take step 1. You're going to have a nuke. Everybody that's beekeeping should have a nuke. I want open nectar and pollen on the outside frames. I want capped brood. That means I don't want any eggs in this. And I'm going to leave that center frame. You can put foundation in it for now. just put foundation in it because you're going to hold that open for the next process, either A or B. And I'm going to walk you through this. If you have questions, put it in the chat and I'll walk everybody through this because at the end, I want everybody raising queens. Step 2, the box above, I want more resources. Cat brood, cat brood, cat brood. Or at least the oldest larvae at the end, not young larvae that they have to feed. I want that end. And for Anthony, do you also sell or do you also produce just queen cells to give? Yes, I do. On the top of that, I want more open nectar and pollen. So I want tons of resources in here. I don't want them to have to go out and forage for it. I want everything here to raise as much young nurse bees that produce the best vitellogelin so they can produce royal jelly and feed these queens to the maximum with no eggs. If you have a frame that has maybe a little eggs in the outside edge, I want you to take your hive tool and crush them out. I don't want anybody raising any other queens from other than the ones that I'm going to give this colony. And then I'm going to put a shaker box. A shaker box is an empty box. And then I'm going to go back to my resources here. And I'm going to take a frame and I'm going to look for every bit of the nurse bees and other bees to shake inside this box. So I'm going to check the frame first. Number one, I'm going to pull that frame up and I'm going to check for the queen. I'm going to flip it over 2 or 3 times. If you have a buddy in the bee yard, pass it off and say, hey, does this have any bee or any queens on it? If you're confirmed, take that frame, take it in the top and beat it back and forth, or take it along the tabs and smack it down. And I want to fill this entire box top to bottom with nurse bees and field bees and drones. If you're doing it mid-morning, that's the best when all the foragers are out doing their thing. Because if you shake them into this builder, into this starter, the field bees are going to go back to the parent colony. I want to shake nurse bees that don't even know the sense of daylight yet in here, to go down in here and to be queenless. I'm setting up a queenless colony that they're starving to raise a queen. Case in point, why I want no eggs. I don't want them to do what they want. I want them to do what I want. So after I completely fill this up, they're bearding out the bottom, they're bearding out the top. I knock off the shaker box, use your smoker, chase them down a little bit, and then I'm going to cap this off. And then I'm going to check it again in 8 hours. Because if I shook it and then tons of the field bees were in, the field bees are going to go back. You're going to open this up and there's barely going to be any bees inside of here. And then at that point, go back to step 3. Go back, use your other colonies, and you're not going to start a war. So everybody says, do you need to have bees from just a colony? No. All the nurse bees really have no scent that they're going to, or loyalty to the QMP. So the field queen's doing it. As long as you don't take the queen. Now, if you pick up a frame and it has the queen on it and you knock it off into the shaker box, now that queen's going to spread her pheromone and you're not going to be able to raise any other queens. So try to get that skill of learning and looking at those queens or seeing queens on a frame. So after 8 hours, what are you going to do? You're going to do option A. And I'm going to walk you through step by step. This is Mel Dissacone's method of OTS, on the spot. What you're going to do, you're going to pick up a frame that's going to have young larvae. So you can see that little tiny puddle at the bottom that has very, very young larvae and eggs. What you're going to do, we all have hive tools. You're going to take a hive tool and you're going to crush it down, 1/3 of that cell down. You're going to shove it into the wax. Do not touch the eggs or larvae. And you're going to crush it down in the center picture off to the right. And you're going to crush it down and pull it back at a 45-degree angle. What that's going to do, it's going to set itself up for them to attach around the top and start to pull this out. Roger Meyer says, you can also put a queen excluder in the bottom of the shaker box. Very good tip, Roger. Thank you. So what you're going to do, you're going to take your hive tool. Remember, shove it down all the way to the foundation. Push it downward, tilt your hand down, and pull it back out at a 45. In a queenless colony, they will go after these cells first because they've already been knocked down, so they don't have to chew it out, and they'll start pulling these out as queen cells. You can do it in multiple places. So if you have this long frame, Do it along the bottom edge, do it over here, do it in the center, do it off the other side. When you're done with that frame, take your black tip marker or take a little push pin and shove it in the top or right on the top of it, grafted bar. So you know when you open up the colony, you don't have to go, which one was down there? I'm not sure. I take a red thumbtack and shove it into the wood. It's this little tiny short thumbtacks. Shove it in the wood that I've done anything on OTS. So that way I know where that frame's at. What's going to happen? In a queenless colony, they're going to pull out these queen cells. One of the bad things about OTS is they might, if there's 3 in a row and they like them, they're going to pick out the super sisters. They're going to pick out the eggs and everything for what the bees do. I didn't have to graft. I didn't have to put in royal jelly. I didn't have to look for the larvae. I didn't have to put on my trifocals. The bees will pull that out. What they will do, though, they'll collect 3 of them, put them right side by side by side. There is no way for you to turn around and cut them apart unless you're going to sacrifice 1 queen. And then like over here, they just pull down 1 peanut. So, and remember I said, don't use plastic on this. So your grafting stuff that you're going to have these eggs and stuff on, let the bees pull it out, let the queen lay them up, mark them right on the top. This is a grafting frame. So you can cut into it and use it. So what you're going to do with that, here's these 3 queens side by side by side. You can, if you want, sacrifice that middle peanut. Just take it and just cut it right in half. And then you'll have 1 queen to the left, 1 queen to the right. If you don't feel bad about doing it, just cut the foundation out all the way through to the other side and cut that chunk out and take that into another frame. So we're going to have that wax foundation and we're going to shove it. You're going to push it into the edges here, into the edge of that, not touching anything or distorting these queen cells at all. You're going to shove that down to the foundation and put that into another nuke and raise some more queens. If this is a real runny queen over here, I would slice it in half and use 1, 2, and then cut this one out here and actually have 3 queens instead of just 2 chunks. It is completely on you. The nice part about this is we've all seen queen cells. We've all practiced at this. So just start getting practice and to go, yep, that's a queen, and I can cut that in half because that middle cell is kind of short. That's one way. So that's option A. So let's go through that one more time. On the mill, so you're going to take a frame of eggs, and it can be eggs or very young larvae. You see that little tiny puddle of royal jelly. Do not do this on, if you see those real, if you can without the naked eye, no glasses or cheaters, you can see that fat royal or that fat larvae, too old, way too old. They'll never raise it. You'll have an inferior queen. Eggs or very young larvae or this transition. I see eggs on the edge, and that's where they just dropped on that 4th day or 24-hour larvae. We're going to slice it in with the hive tool, push it down to the foundation. In the center picture here, we're going to drop it down, pull it out, and they're going to pull out queen cells. When is it? On the 9th day, they're capped. So now I know this is at least the 10th. They're starting to thin it out a little bit. And what I talk about thinning is, you see this peanut, just like we've all ate raw peanuts at the bar or went in a fair or ate salted peanuts. You'll see that in the very tip of this, you're starting to see that it's not that excess wax on the tip. They're starting to thin it out. That means this could be also day 12, 13. And then the queen's going to have her mandible, 1/2 of her mandible shoved through, and she's going to cut it just like an old tin or old soup cutter or can opener. And she's just going to take her mandible and chew through that 1/2 of it and open that into a trap door. So that's easy. You had nothing into it other than a frame of eggs and a hive tool. So that's option 1. And you're going to cut them out, make your splits. Option 2 is the Miller method. And this is where I'm going to take a frame of eggs. Remember, not plastic foundation. That's why I asked you to get wax. It was created from Charles C. Miller back in 1911. Another easy way. That nice sharp X-Acto blade, you're just going to come in here and cut zigzags along through the eggs. And I want eggs or very, very young larvae that you can hardly even see. You might not only see just a puddle of royal jelly in the bottom. And that's where I'm going to cut through to make these zigzags. What's going to happen? They're going to pull along those edge in a queenless colony. They're going to pull these eggs around the outside edge, and then I can use that. And what it's going to look like. There's my frame of eggs. I pulled it from the colony. It's got real wax foundation, and I have eggs all in this area. Or it might be along the very edge. Don't get too close to the bottom, because we've all seen a queen cell. Don't get it so close to the bottom that they attach it to the bottom bar. That way you can cut it off and move it without having, because if you cut through any of that cell, they'll just eat it and destroy it. What you're going to do next, you're going to take your knife and cut that zigzag. And where are they going to grow them cells? Anything along that edge that is the proper age egg or larvae, young larvae, and they're going to pull out cells. So here's the cells they're starting to pull out. They're going to turn on and let the rest of these turn back into workers or drones, depending if they're male or female. Now I have all these queen cells around the outside. Now, you got tons of queens. Now what are you going to do? Take that nice sharp X-Acto blade, and I'm going to cut around here and make another split. The reason I say 2, if you want to hedge your bets on being successful a little bit better, take at least 2 good queen cells and put them in per nuke. That way, the max they have to fight is each other. One's going to be superior, one's going to win, she's going to make the mating flight, but there's still a chance that she doesn't come back. Other one right there, I take my knife, boom, boom, there's 2 more right side by side. Cut right across the bottom, there's 2 more. I take those 3 because it's really hard to cut them apart without distorting it. Another 2 at the top. Another 2 here, another 2 on the side. 1 across the bottom. 1 across the bottom here, 1 across the top here. There. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 splits you just made. How easy is that? Easy? Everybody give me a thumbs up. Sounds easy, doesn't it? That's what we're going to do. Remember, I do not want to keep any of these queen cells if they're tiny, little, runty cells. Just take your hive tool and crush them out. You are sacrificing some resources on this, but think of the amount of queens that you're going to have on day 14. Remember, they're going to be capped on day 9. You can inspect them. After 9, I don't want you to pull that frame out and tilt it upside down, because remember, she's sitting in that royal jelly. You go tilting it around, she drops out of the royal jelly, and then you're messed up. But take that frame up slow. See that it's not, put your thumb up there. If she looks like your thumb, she's a keeper. If she looks like the tip of your little pinky, cut it out. Or pull it out and keep the royal jelly. Okay? So now we're going to build this. Now we're going to build the starter. So now what I want is I want a feeder box on the top. That graft, depending on what I'm going to do. So when I go back, I'm either going to notch OTS and take that frames that I notched, and I'm going to put in this black frame area right here in the middle. So as I notched it, as soon as I notch it, I put it in your cell starter that you just built. If I did Miller method, after I cut the Z's out, back and forth, I instantly stick it in this box. So we'll just go back, because I want to make sure everybody's on the same page on this. So if I go back here, as soon as I made these in this center frame, as soon as I made these notches, that frame instantly goes into my cell starter. If you have another, say you have the resources, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you have enough to make 2 cell starters. Do 1 on OTS, so as soon as you notch, I'm going to put that in my cell starter. And what are them workers going to do? We have eggs, we have brood, and they're going to jump on this like crazy, and they're going to pull out queens. Or if you're not good at that, you can't see the eggs, you're not sure, then go down here and cut the zigzags out. So you found a frame. The queen or the colony is really good. Pulled tons of honey, did everything you asked her to do. You love her to death. Eleanor, I love you. She's done a great job. I take a frame of her eggs, I shake everything off. Not shake violently, or take a brush and get them off. And then if it's a wax foundation, I'm going to take my knife, cut zigzags through those eggs. Instantly. Take that over before this process here. and I'm going to put it in that black gap in between here. I'm going to take this apart, use a little smoke. I always have my veil zipped up and ready to go, and I'm going to drop it right in there. I'm going to leave it till day 9. Remember, we're looking back at our calendar. Once I have my queen, and let me zip this up for you here so you guys can see it a little bit better. Let's do this. Okay, so when I notched, if those eggs are in there, we're already at day 3. Day 4, if you sing young larvae 3 and 4. If I pull that back open on day 9, and I pull that nuke open, and I see capped queen cells that are big around as your thumb, you can start doing the math right here. You might be off a day. It's not an exact science unless you've actually seen the queen and you know what stage they're at. So now I know at day 9, they were capped. Or if you were in there, and it doesn't take much, don't try not to disturb as much as possible. Pull that up and see, did the cap almost closed? You might be at day 8. On day 16, kind of do the math around that. Day 16, on 13 and 14 is when you want to start cutting them apart and making your nukes for your other hives. So I would say on day 13, 12, 13, and 14, I would be making my other nukes up in my apiary to accept these queen cells and be ready to go. If you go back, let's just say you're on day 16 and you're not sure, and you went out and took a 2-day vacation and you had 18 queens in there, when you come back for vacation on day 18, how many queens do you have? 1. So you've got to stay around, and it's hard on the calendar. Think of 16 days on a calendar. She doesn't take Saturdays and Sundays off. She's emerging on day 16. So as you see day 16 on that 13 and 14, when that cell is all the way pulled out, you just see the tip of it start to be thinned out. Cut them out with that razor knife, and then start putting them around in your nuke yard. Then what can you do with this? Check every one of these frames for queen cells. Do the process again. Shake in more nurse bees. If you're light on resources, so there's not a lot of pollen in here, there's not a lot of open nectar, there's not a lot of anything, put a feeder box on the top, put a 1-to-1 sugar water on the top, or put a small chunk of pollen petty right on the top bars. I want them to feed. They have to feed the queen up to 10,000 times. That means a nurse bee goes in, she regurgitates a little bit of royal jelly, she crawls up in the cell and deposits it over and over. If you look at some videos, it looks like a sewing machine of all these nurse bees in there trying to feed this queen. So if you're going to use it a second time, I would tear this all the way down, look at every one of the frames and make sure there's no other queen cells that were pulled in there, or a virgin queen that was out on a mating flight. She came back to that colony and smelled that it was queenless and walked on in. So check that colony top to bottom. Okay, so you have option A or option B at that point. Easy. No resources. You didn't have to graft. You didn't have to have instrumental insemination. You didn't have to do all that crazy stuff. And you've just raised at least 5 or 6 queens, minimum. Another way to do this. This is another preferred method I like, that you don't have to sit around all the time. We've all got colonies right now that are pressurized like this. Frame to frame bees. Everything's going on. What can I do? So allow this colony to build up. You know it's starting to get into the pressurized thing, or you have a colony that's starting to look like this at that 80, 90%, and it's getting too built up. What are we going to do? You're going to do queens for pennies. And I do an off thing of this with Randy Oliver. So what you're going to do, you're going to take that frame of drawn comb. You're going to take your hive tool down to the plastic foundation, and you're going to rip that and cut a strip right down through that whole entire thing. And then you're going to put it in the dead center of this colony with all that eggs and brood and larvae. So what you're going to do, remember, you're going to take that frame of foundation. You can do it on one side or both. And then you're going to take those JBZ wide base cups, and you're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. It can be the same color, different colors, to your choice. If you have different colonies, have all green cups in this one for that queen. You know those eggs. If you have the cups in here, when that colony starts to get completely pressed up, They will put wax over the top of these, and the queen will go inside and lay eggs. When you run and pull this out, you're going to inspect it, and you'll see an egg, and you'll see this peanut starting to get drawn out around the outside. You didn't even have to do anything at that point. They automatically done it. You could, if you want to get a little bit, I mean, if you have a big, strong colony, this I would do, even if you have a really strong nuke, 4 eggs, they'll raise those 4 eggs perfectly. If you want to do this in a big 4/4 colony, like an 8 frame deep over deep or 8 frame deep over deep, you could actually take your hive tool and scratch 1 at the top and scratch 1 at the bottom and put in 8 cells if you wanted to. And then what you're going to do on that, this is exactly what they pull out. Completely pulled out, and you'll see that here's the scratch at the bottom all the way down to the foundation. They pulled a little bit of burr comb. They started to draw it back. But here's the ends are all pulled out. They're capped. All these queen cells are nice and long. And nice thing with the JBZ cage or JBZ wide base, I can see how much royal jelly's in them. I want a queen that has not run out of royal jelly. The reason being, if she's a larvae and she didn't, let's say that colony that wasn't strong enough to put in enough royal jelly, that means she didn't eat to her full potential for her health and for her to turn into a good quality queen. She starved out and then she dropped into position. Is that a quality queen? I say no. I want to see excess royal jelly in that cap, that when she emerges, the other workers run down in there because they want that extra royal jelly. And then all I have to do is take my fingers and pluck this one off, pluck this one off, pluck that one off. I'll even leave 1, maybe 2, depending on how many I have. Leave 2 in here for this colony. Let them fight it out. Let Mother Nature take its course. And take these 2, take them, put them in remember our battery box? Take your battery box, keep it up against your belly, put it in your jacket, take that queen cell. In the bottom of the battery boxes, you'll see little pits where they put the nose of the JBZ cages. You can put those cells right down inside there, put some foam around it, put it up against your belly, take it to a club event, or take it to your friend, or take it to an out yard, and now you can divide these up and say you have this many. So this is another way to do it. This is simple, easy. I've given tons and tons of JBZ. You can get 100 of them for the whole whopping price of $11. And you can do it 100 times over. But let's remember, don't go in there and go, okay, I want tons of numbers, and I'm going to put in 30 of these JBZ cups. Because it takes tons of those resources to fill them up with royal jelly and quality queens. So I would rather you do, and I want everybody, just put in 2 cups, 2 to 4 cups, and do it with a strong nuke, or do it with a strong colony. Or if you have a big colony, you could do it in 2 different frames. Raise a couple small queens and just get in the habit and the conditioning of doing this. And then learning the timetable and learning how to do it. If you want to use the app, do it that way too. But this is easy. You didn't even have to do the OTS, anything. You just put it in. You put it in a real banging colony where they had tons of resources, and the queen done it, and the bees laid it up for you. So what can you do? Right there. That is a prime on the picture on the left. They thinned out that tip, and that queen's going to get ready to emerge. What did I do with the blue? I just took that out of another colony. Look at how much royal jelly's in that cap. I know that's going to be a quality queen. And if I don't want to have to graft or do Dolittle and spend an hour doing the setup, I can probably graft 40 queens in 10, 15 minutes. I can just take that little JBZ and put it between the frames, start another colony, do a split, easy. And when you see the queen, here's that can opener where she put her mandibles around that outside edge, and she opened it up like those old school can openers, and there's my queen, and there's my prize. That's what I want. So when you see that tip being thinned out, either here or here in the middle, that means she's going to emerge. Days late 15 and 16, guaranteed she's coming out. So remember, on your inspections, once the queen is released on day 2 and 3, sexually maturing, she's going to sexually mature for 7 to 10 days. That's within the colony. She's going to run around and spread her QMP. She wants this colony to vote for her. Do you like me? And she's like running around with a 2-year-old kid with candy. I want you to be my friend. I want you to turn around and know that we have a good quality queen in here. Once she returns, she's going to go out on her mating flight. Once she returns, it's going to take 2 weeks to start seeing eggs. Don't be in there digging around. Take your grease pencil on the top, your felt tip, ultimate black felt tip marker right on the top. Do not touch for 2 weeks. That just keeps that. That's let Mother Nature take its course. If after 3 weeks there's no queen or no eggs, place another cell, virgin or frame of eggs on top, so you don't turn around and start getting a laying worker. And what the frame of eggs or brood's going to do, it's going to suppress that laying worker from developing. So remember, we're on our timetable on this. If you can turn around, honestly look in the mirror at night and go, well, I don't check my bees for a month at a time, and I'm not the greatest beekeeper, don't get into this, because you'll have tons of laying workers and you'll have a mess on your hands. This takes a little bit more due diligence. At the end of this, I want to see eggs. Remember, this queen is brand new. She has no concept of what happened. She just went out, done her thing. I'm not going to say anything funny, but she went out and done her thing for 10, 15 different guys. She came back. Her spermatheca filled up with 8 microliters of semen. She's starting to run, and all of a sudden, she starts hitting the bottom of these cells. I want to see egg, 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 egg. You will see, with a new virgin queen, little tiny areas where you see 2 eggs, 2 eggs, 1 egg, 1 egg, 1 egg, sometimes even 3 eggs. But they're always in the bottom, in the center. I don't want to see them on the sidewall and stuff like that. Her abdomen should be nice and long by then. She's hitting them off the bottom. Don't go instantly, oh, I'm going to kill her because she's laying multiple eggs. I have a worker. This is what a worker looks like. If it was on the sidewalls, this is still a queen. This is a queen that had just double, double, double 3, double, double 2. But look, 1, 1, 1. And this is only in one little tiny area, like on a quarter of the frame, or maybe a third of the frame of eggs. And all of a sudden, after a while, you'll see 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and she's got it all worked out. But that's what happens. So when you see that, then this is what I want to see in egg production. At 1 cell per egg, all the way down through, nice young larvae. And what tells me on that, just looking at that frame, that's wet brood. I have tons of good resources. That means I have a good, healthy colony, and I have young nurse bees regurgitating tons of royal jelly. So I call that wet brood. That is, I would like to see a little bit more, but that's a good pattern. I know that there's nice, the brood is nice, white and creamy. That means I have no disease, no American foul brood, no European foul brood, and things are looking good. I want to evaluate this queen when she's doing this. Would you turn around and kill that queen? For this queen, absolutely not. She laid that nice pattern out. There might be some wires in here. She missed a couple spots. That's fine. You got some capped honey in the corners. I'd like to see some extra pollen in here, but they might have had it on the other frame. This is where they live or die. If I see a queen that lays these spotty patterns, or I see worker, 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 drone, 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 worker, worker, you find her off with her head, you combine the colonies back, you do another graft, or set it up either OTS, Miller method, or set it up with the JBZ cups, and you start over again. That's the nice part. Don't let these things go a whole 30, 40 days, or you're going to have laying worker running around. So at this time, I'm going to perform it. If it's a 5-frame nuke, guess the best part. You go to the club meeting, you turn around and get online if you do that kind of thing, or you set it up in your store, whatever you're doing. Hey, I got a nuke for sale, 170, 180 bucks right in your pocket. And where are all the new beekeepers looking for? They're looking for nice regional genetics, regional stock, and they know the beekeeper. The best part is you have your own genetics in your area. They're used to this area. They're not from Georgia and things like that. It's nice stock that they know the breeder and they know what they're looking for. If you're good at it, you can use nitro gloves and put the little dot on it. You can turn around and put the number. I put the numbering system. If I do I put the numbers on them. But nice quality stock. And that's what I want. I do not say these are Russians or these are Cordovans or these are Italians. Because I've raised Italians that I think are Italian You raise them and they throw off 3 different colors that look like different breeds. I call mine the best Ohio mutts. So again, if you have a 5-frame nuke, put it up for sale. If you want to increase numbers, right there. For every 2 hives that you have, you should have another nuke. What's that nuke good for? I can have a queen if all of a sudden one of my colonies swarm and say the queen doesn't come back. What do I have it for? I can steal all the brood away from her and build up some of my other colonies. I can turn on and do this and go 3 frames of brood, a frame of honey and pollen, and a frame of partial drone. And all I got to do is take that nuke, stack another nuke on top, and really see what this girl will kick into. And you'll be surprised how much they want to be a full colony, and they really pour it on. If they get to this, I throw in another box and go 5 over 5 over 5. And I usually get 20 or 30, if not more, go through the wintertime. And they will go through wintertime lickety-split. No problems. I think I haven't seen Peggy on here, but Peggy Garnes is probably she's even better at it than I am. Remember your introduction. So now we have these queens. We have them done. They went out and made a mating. You analyzed them. You evaluated them. Nice, gentle stock. They're what you want. And now where's your market? You're going to try and put these in California or JBZ cages, and you're going to try and have people. The best thing for most of you is to have those people come to you right in your apiary, pick them up, you put them in a cage, put in at least, and try to get in this practice. Keeping the queen, picking the queen up by the wings, start picking up drones. I want you to take nitro gloves, pick up drones. Best part is if you screw up and you kill them, they don't sting you. Then kick up your game. Start picking up workers. When they're walking away, you reach on the back of them, pick them up by their wings, curl them up, and then start putting them in JBZs or Californias and start getting into that practice. And then that you'll learn that touch. Don't do it with leather gloves because you can't feel the pressure that's on. Pick up the queen by the back of her wings, head first down in, because if you put her legs first, they'll fight and you'll break her legs. Put her head first down in, put in 2 or 3 young. The best thing to look for is them brand new emerged nurse bees that have hardly any color. They're all blonde. Those are the best ones to go after. But look for those nurse bees that are on that open brood. Pick up 2 or 3, put them inside there, and then you can put the cap on it, or you can turn around and put the queen candy inside the cage. Have the people come to your place, and you can keep them in there. If she just emerges in a couple days, you can keep her in there for up to 2 weeks. But remember, if you sell them, you tell the person on the 3rd day after they introduce them and they put them in their nukes, or you put it into another nuke and you're going to do it in your own yard, after the 3rd day, you're going to pop that candy and let her walk out. And you're going to watch her walk out. If she walks out and walks down in the frames and does her thing and nobody's about, fine, great. If she walks out and they start balling her, and there are, I'm not going to say hot hives, but there's hives that no matter what you put in there, they don't like her genetics because they want their own queen. They don't want somebody from the outside. And I have put in queens that as soon as she walks out, they ball her, you pick her up, you pick off the other bees, you put her back in a cage, and you put her into another nuke. So here's the California, or here's the JBZ cages. When you to run and do this yourself, or you're going to sell these queens or give them away, remember, if you're in Ohio, you have to mark that you're going to sell queens on your registration. So I'll do that because I'm a county inspector, just following the law. Make sure you explain to people that when you take these cages home, don't shove them in any which way. I've had people that I tell this to, and what do they do with the screen? They shove it right into the wax. Why? Well, it stuck better. That's what I get the explanation. I want that shoved in and tilted back, so if any of the workers die, they fall to the back, and the workers from the outside or the house bees can eat in, the queen can get out. And they can feed her. So if you're looking at this here, shove it into the edge. Now between the frames, between the 6th frame, I can see, and the nurse bees or the house bees can feed her. Tell people, do not take that frame or that screen and shove it into the wax, or what's up also in this corner of the frames a lot of times. Tons of honey. Don't shove that into the honey because all it's going to do is dribble into here, and it's just going to flood them out, make her all sticky, and kill her inside. So make sure you put them in there that they can feed her. This is another practice. If you're going to raise queens, you need to understand how to do this. JBZs. The reason for the toothpick is you can lay it right between the frames. This is a little harder because of the plastic shoving it in. A good general practice is I have toothpicks in my thing. I shove it through. Do not shove it through and skewer your queen. Blow on her, get her to the side, shove it through, take the snout, shove it down a little bit. Now, if there's workers inside, they can drop to the bottom and die. She still has area. On what day are we going to turn and release her? So put it in your chat box. What day? Because I want to get this through with everybody. Day 8, 12. Laura? Oh, Laura got it. 3. 3. Robert, 3. Please try to remember that, because if these queens, you leave them in that cage, all of a sudden they can't walk around. They can't spread their QMP, and they'll start to shrink in size, and you're actually killing the queen. And then if she does get out, they're just going to kill her. That she can't, because when she walks around, as her, not to be offensive, ladies, as her bubble butt is moving around, it's also moving around her spermatheca, and it's moving the sperm around, and it's helping her 150 fallopian tubes on both sides. They're helping it develop. If she's stuck in that little tiny cage, she cannot get developed. So on day 3, you kick them out. What can you do? All of a sudden, I race all these queens, and I got nothing. It's been raining, or I don't have enough people to pick them up. What I do on the JBZs, take the blue painter's tape and cover the snout on the blue painter's tape of the queen candy and cover it up so they don't chew one of these out. And then on the Californias, I actually leave the JBZ wide base in it, or I put the cork. I make this colony here queenless, which you're going to have queenless colonies in there because you just built the cell builder. And I put them all in there until I go to the club meeting. And then I turn around and gather them all up, put them in my battery box, take it to the club, do boom, 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 right there. If you're going to do this, the best thing to do is to keep feeding. Put a little drop of honey and put on each one of these just in the little corner so the workers come up and start to eat the honey. The queen starts piping and licking, and she wants food, and then they rub antenna and they start communicating. Hey, I need food down inside here. They'll do the same thing with the California cages. And you can also use the 3-hole, and I don't know who may even makes them anymore, but they have the 3-hole. You could do the same thing. But the screens are always open. The JBZs are always open. And all this is, if you look down at the bottom of the picture, it's a yellow 5, a pale green 5, and then I just put a 1.5 inch rim joist around the top and put all my cages in. 7 to 10 days max. The absolute max is 2 weeks, because by then her spermatheca starts to dry up. Even if she goes out, she's not going to take a good mating flight, and then she might come back and lay all this shotgun pattern and everything else. So all the work that you did is down below. So you've just wasted all that time. So the battery box. Somebody says, hey, the battery boxes are $5.75 a piece. I'm going to go to a club that night. I'm going to take a little chunk of sponge, get it wet, wring it out a little bit. In the holes in the bottom, shove some queen candy or some fondant. Put in my queen, or put my queens in with attendants. Walk over to your colony, turn around and get in some nurse bees, snap it closed, take it to a club meeting. Here's your battery box. I want the battery box back. It's $40, $20 a queen. And you just turn around and made yourself money. And those excess queens that you had, you're helping somebody else out in the club. I'll tell you this, and this is the honest truth. This is Dwight Wilson and I the very first time I grafted. In this bar, we were trying to graft over 30 queens. I was happy. I was joyful. I looked like a 5-year-old kid running around the bee yard because this one on the outside is the only one that lived. And now I sit with my granddaughter and I just openly graft time after time after time. So now, after 8 years, at that picture, that was been a few years ago now I raise queens like this, 45 at a time. And I do it Dolittle, and I'll be honest, I don't always do Dolittle like this. I use OTS, I use Randy Oliver, and I still, if I have wonky comb or something, I'll use Miller Method. It's a way to use it. And practice this. Practice it over and over and over. If you want to do Miller Method and you have some wonky combs like that, cut the Z's in it And then as they draw it back out, cut it back out again. As she lays it up with eggs, cut it out again. Use 2 or 3 frames. If you're really good with the OTS and you learn that how to put that hive tool in and push it down and pull it out, build yourself that little cell starter, boom, off and running. And now you're raising your own queens from your own stock. You can do some grafting classes. Well, this is up at Roger Meyer's club with his club members. Dwight Wells and I were up there and we're teaching Dolittle. If you want to get into that, but it is, I'm going to be honest, it is very hard on the eyes because you have to learn how to graft them very young larvae. There's a technique to it, but there's tons of classes. Take a class on that. And right there, this is what I did with, and I honestly raised these queens in probably 20 minutes. It was a OTS. I went in and I did it on 3 frames of eggs. So I had 3 marked on the top of the bars and I raised them nukes. And out in front of my barn, you'll see these all the time. I take a traveling lid. I do not know the dimension, but it'll fit a mason jar perfectly for a feeder, 1-to-1. I beat about 8 holes on the top. There's all my nukes. And I raise those, I just raise them over and over and over. But if any of them at this point at 5 frames, if they scare me or I don't like the quality of them, off with their head, come by, take this box, put it on the next box, keep right on going. The reward of this is queens that you need. Do you want to turn on and increase your apiary? Did some of you have winter losses where you turn on and have to raise, I lost eight colonies. I lost 2 colonies. Or do you want to sell some nukes? The only time we all have honey is at the end of the season. Diversify a little bit. Sell some nukes in the springtime to turn around and help pay for this hobby that we've all been love and cherish. And then turn on and be able to have your own stock. And you'll find that you cannot, and you'll never hurt anybody else's feelings on this. If you raise 50 queens in your club and somebody else raises 50 queens, guarantee you'll sell every one of them. You're not going to compete against each other. And then if you live far enough apart, if you raise 5 and the guy down the road 20 miles raises 5 and he has good stock and you got good stock, switch it out. So you don't get the genetic bottleneck of her mating with her own drones or her same genetics on that side of it. And then when you start getting this big, you can start raising 40 of them at a time and putting them in a cell builder this way with pollen patty and getting crazy. Everybody can do this. So guess what? I have a screenshot of everybody's name on here. I might not know you, but I got a screenshot of you. And I want all of you to challenge you. Get out your bees this week or weekend and at least raise in the next 16 days, raise at least 2 or 3 queens. That's all I ask. That 2 queens. Let's just set the goal. 2 queens from everybody on this screen. Any questions? And let me open this up to anybody. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to go back in the slide. You can unmute yourself if you want to as of right now.
Hey, Jamie.
Yes, sir.
I don't think everybody got your PDF file, and I tried to get it to work, and I couldn't get it to work.
All right, let me send it
again. I couldn't change the date.
Oh, not on the PDF. Not on the PDF. Let me see if I can put this Excel into it. I'll change that. Please look, please, if you go, and I'll do it here in the next 10 minutes, I'll turn on and get this list because for some reason the Excel sheet on this is not uploading. And I will get it on the OSBA website. Let me contact Peggy and make sure it's okay. And I'll put my picture with it. Yeah. Oh, she is on the
Peggy is here tonight.
Thank you very much, Peggy. I'll put it on there so you can download it. And then on the PDF, it's just to show you the dates and times. And it has the amount of days off to the left. And it just gives you a calendar. And then on the Excel sheet, as you change the date at the top, so let me switch screens here and I'll show you again. When you get the Excel sheet, this date as I change it. So let's just say, I'll go over here and I'm going to change it for Tuesday. All of a sudden you notice all these calendar dates changed. I'm going to change this for May 21st. It automatically changes. So this is something you can do. Remember, you can, if you're techie, go back and do the app and then set the app for whatever you want to set. Get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, like some of you might. Boom, the alarm goes off and it says, hey, check it for cells, check it for eggs. Your queens are on mating flights. And you can put one alert and say, this is for the A colony, and set another alert for your B colony or your cell starter. So you can do that all the time. Let me go up here. A bunch of questions just popped in. Just 1 second. Have you seen those boxes you can put in and workers can come out for cups? Have I?
Nicot.
Nicot. I do not like the Nicot. That's my personal feeling in it. You got to put the queen in these little tiny cups. You cage her in and she lays it in. Then you got to pull out each cup and move it. I bought it back in the day. I think the second, third year I was a beekeeper. Dwight Wilson and I tried to use it, and I ended up giving away to somebody at Northwest Ohio Bee Club. Robert, what's the name of the app? And let me just go back. I will just go back through the PowerPoint, and I will show you immediately. And we're getting closer and closer. OTS right here. Boom, boom, boom. Queen Rearing Mobile. If you put it in your app store, and it does have it for Android, I'm not sure about Apple because I'm not an Apple person. It's QR Mobile, and the pro version, the free version, it'll let you do 2 apiaries or 2 cell builders at the same time. If you want to do the pro version, it's 99 cents. Click it, and then you can, and I've done 15 or 20 cell builders at a time. And you can actually, where if you'll see the center picture, it says pole line grafts. That's when I came back from down south. I had some pole line queens, and I did all those in red cups. So you'll see that where it says red cups. I knew that day, that morning, I knew they were out on their mating flight. And then it tells you the cells. It goes through a whole series. It'll say the cells are capped on this day. Then it'll go through and it'll say they're emerging this day. The 11th, 12th, or excuse me, the 12th, 13th, 14th, or 11th, 12th, and 13th, excuse me, that they're fragile. And it'll give you all these alerts every day. So even if you don't want to do anything, it'll walk you right through it.
Jamie, you're on the wrong screen for us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Center screen, sorry. So sorry, Robert. So it's Queen Rearing Mobile. It's called QR Mobile App. And you'll see in here where the pole line graphs were, what I was saying. And when I graft in red cups, I just tell it. And then this will tell me exactly what's going on in the apiary all the time. And then if you scroll down on that app on your screen, it says the pro version, it's 99 cents. John Welty, are you in a cooler weather winter than me, but do you have any insulation for your nukes overwintered? I do not. I used to, and I'll be honest, my probably first 5 years of beekeeping, I put on tar paper, and then that got to be a pain because I was using a throw stapler and throwing staples all over it. Then you got to take the needle nose pliers and pull them all off. What I do right now, I turn on take, and I'll just go back. Let me go this, and I'll just show you real quick. I don't do it when there's singles like this. If you see how the nukes are set up here, so let's go back to the center frame. As these nukes build 5 over 5 over 5, so they're 15 tall vertically. In the wintertime, I slam them all together like an apartment complex. So I slam them, once it stays consistently under 50 degrees. So I know they're not out doing mating flight or doing anything or foraging. So we're talking late October, November. I go to Harbor Freight. I buy the 2-pack of orange straps for $1.90 or $1.70. I wrap each individual colony. I slam them all together, and I put ratchet straps around them. The colonies that are sharing the heat on the inside, and to be honest, it's usually the outside colonies that usually sometimes don't make it through the wintertime. Everyone that one's in between, they all make it right through the winter. And then once it gets above 40 again, you start seeing cleansing flights and stuff. Then I turn around, break them out. And if you notice the front entrance on this, you'll see the front entrance here, there. Well, I take that back. These are all facing this way right now. But when they're stacked, I usually have the one's facing the front, the next one's facing the back, facing the front, facing the back, facing the front, facing the back. So that way there's at least some space in between them and they can just do their thing. Jeff Fenton did 7 walkaway splits last week, have 10 more to split this week. Congratulations. Glad to hear that. I'm excited about that. Anthony, have you ever tried cloak board? I have with Dwight Wilson. That is a completely different, because you're putting the cloak board in, you're pulling it out, you're waiting for the nurse bees to come up. I have not had a lot of success with that. I can actually do OTS and do Miller method. I mean, if I have wonky frame, or if I get a frame that just where the bees pulled it out, I can do that and walk away. Or I can do, if I have time enough to make all the nukes up, I can raise 40 queens in 10 minutes. I mean, I love to graft. I love to graft. Ann Hathaway, thank you. And I apologize, Mac. He said the app is not for Apple, so I do apologize on that. And Brenda, I don't see the Queen Ring Mobile. Who is the creator? I will find that out. Let me get my cell phone here if you want to hang on for a little bit, and I'll find out. Russell, what are your thoughts on putting new mated queens on frames with push-in cages so that new queens can start to lay and possibly more accepted? If you have time to do push-in cages, I would do it. I just don't have time for it. And what a push-in cage is, it's about 1 3/4 inches long, or on the sides. It's usually maybe 4 inch by 4 inch. You can go a little bit bigger if you want to make custom ones. And it's usually the number 8 screen that you see on the bottom of screen bottom boards. And you'll bend it into a square. You'll put the sides on it, bend it down. They usually tack weld them, or you can turn around and bend them out real tight. You put the queen underneath them with some attendants above some open drawn comb, shove it in, let her walk around. And after she lays a little bit, they accept her, they accept the brood, you pull the cage off, and they let her walk around. I learned this from a probably 90-year-old beekeeper in Pennsylvania. If you don't want to do the introduction and have to put the cage in there and let it introduce for 3 days, go out and have to have the days to go out and do that, take the virgin queens. I know it sounds gross, but spit on her. Not with tons of canned or food or anything else, but spit on her, the back of her abdomen and thorax, set her on top, and what happens? The bees run up, start to clean her, and she walks right down inside. And it's probably a 90+ success. An older beekeeper, I went down to Pennsylvania one time, 3 of these old, I love to go to bee meetings, and as a presenter or just a visitor, find the oldest beekeepers that have been beekeeping for years and find all kinds of tricks. And he says, why do you wait for 3 days for the introduction? Take that virgin queen, pop her out of the cage, spit on the back of her thorax and abdomen, put her on top of the frames, and the bees will come up and clean her, and she'll walk right down inside. And I do it if I'm in a rush. I'll find out about the app. I'll write him an email tonight. And Ann, I do not wrap. My bees, I do the reducer on the front. I make sure that they make weight for wintertime. I mean, that they're heavy. I don't want frames of foundation or nothing. Every frame, I want honey or brood or pollen. I want it bulked up. If it's 5/5/5, I slam them together, ratchet strap, and they go through winter. Do you wrap? I found a iQueen app on Apple. I'll look into that. My wife has an Apple phone. Store. Nice job. Thank you very much. Mac, the Bee Yard. Oh, has a calendar generator. Okay. So Mac has the beeyard.org. Also has a calendar generator if you want to check that out. And for Sherry, for a 3-frame queen castle, what would be the makeup of the frames? Brood, pollen, on a 3-frame. So if you're going to do 3 frames, I would do a frame of open or closed brood, or that fat larvae. Put that in there, a good shake of nurse bees that cover at least 2 solid frames, and then a frame of honey. You can give them some open comb. Don't give them a frame of foundation, because it does nothing for a new colony starting out. Give them lots of resources so that virgin queen can get a good smell. They like her. They growing up and feeding her. Let her get out on the 3rd day. Let her get out. Let her do her thing. If you check it in after that 2 weeks, you check it and you start seeing nice eggs, everything, you can take that 3-frame then and take that 3-frame, put a nuke right beside it and put a nuke and put it in a 5 frame. Then if she really blows out a 5 frame, put another 5 on top. Or if she really does good on a 5 frame, then stick her into an 8. So you can, it gets to be, if you're a smaller beekeeper, I mean, you can move those hives to do that. I used to go from 2 frames to a 5 to a 10. And it's just, you're hockeying them all the time. So I just went with bigger deeps that I just split in half. So either it's a 3 by 3 by 3 or a 4 over 4. But good question, Sherry. And John, oh, the old queen spit method. Yep, I do that. And Ann, instead of spitting on her, can you spray sugar water? Yes, you could. You could spray a little bit of sugar water on her. But I would watch. If you put her on the top bars, put her right in the center of the colony, put her right on the top bars. And at first, when you put her down, the bees will back away a little bit. If they come up and just gently start cleaning her, I would turn around and run with it. And for Mr. Craig, I will get everybody, and Peggy gave me permission, I will put the Excel sheet. It's the queen generator for OSBA. I will put that on the website. And Robert, I have made number 8 cages and stuck them into the cap queen cells and go back and collect them after they emerge when they move on the queenless nukes. That's a good method. So what he's doing, he's seeing queen cells along the side that have already been drawn out. So he's got multiple ones on a frame. He takes the queen or the number 8 cages and presses it over and isolates them that way. I've done that many times. If I have a frame, so if I have a frame that has maybe 6 cells and they're all over the place, I'll take those number 8 frames or cages and cage them all up. That's a good way to doing it. Yes, and if you wanted the PDF, let me grab this here. Go back at everybody. And it'll be right here in the chat. So if you look at the chat, you try and click on the queen rearing generator, you'll click that and you can go right in there. So does everybody, and you can unmute yourself or give me a thumbs up, does everybody feel comfortable raising queens, at least 2 queens in their own apiary with those 3 methods? Anthony, thank you. Mr. Tim Kiefer. Susan, yes. Mr. John Brushwood, excuse me. I couldn't see it for a minute. Roger, John. Good. Robert, he has 4 now brewing. He has 4 in the brew now. Stephen, Eastern Ohio has a lot of drones. Good. Thank you very much. So some queens. I thank you everybody for their time tonight.
Jamie, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
This is Robert. You mentioned those JBZ cups.
Yes.
When you stick them in, aren't you encouraging the queen to swarm?
You're putting her in a swarm setup, but if you keep checking it, she'll lay the eggs in there first, and then you can turn around and pull out the eggs. As soon as she lays in those eggs in those cups, so you'll see the JBZs like this, you're setting her up to be into a swarm situation. So that's why I always leave that as option C. So it's not the best one, but it's one of the ones that you could turn on, let her build up. She'll lay in it. And if you're in your bees all the time, so this is for the beekeeper that's in their bees at least once a week and inspecting their stuff. If you're going to put the JBZs in and you're going to let her go and you don't get in your apiary for 30 days, guaranteed you'll have queens in these cups, but the old queen and half the workforce have been gone at that point.
And where do you buy these from?
You can get them from Man Lake. Let me just hop this up right up and I'll just Dayton Queen Rearing. And I'll show you here just 1 second. Go to left screen. Queen Rearing. So right there, we have the JBZ. Oh, they lowered the price, $4.10 for a battery box. The push-in cages are different, so don't get those. That's when you're starting to use a bar. It's the JBZs right there. They're called the wide base. The number on them is M00664A. Wide base cells, you can get them in yellow, green. A whole 100 of them for $11.95. So if you have different stock that you wanted to run rear different colors in those cups, you could do that just as easy.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for those points, Robert.
Yeah.
And Angela, we'll give it a try once we get our bees. Good. Man Lake's having a sale 9% off the site. Well, thank you very much for that. I'm not going to try SLC Dunlap. It says Man Lake has a sale on for 9%. So if you want to save a little bit of that, I don't know what their price is, so you can draw and check that out and save a little bit on that too. All right, everybody. I want to thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for joining us for another live webinar training series. And I'm not, without hesitation, I'm going to turn around and tell you to remember, it's put on by OSBA, and your membership helps put on programs like this. So thank you very much for your time tonight, everybody. Good luck. Raise some queens.